Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of your Westland City Council to order. We will begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Jim Hart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Hart. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Baumann is absent, excused. Councilman Hart.
Here.
Councilman Hornbuckle.
Here.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Here.
Councilman Wishart.
Here.
Pro Tem Sampe.
Here.
President McDermott.
Present.
A quorum is present.
Okay, we will now start off tonight's meeting with special announcements and presentations. We will have the presentations of the City of Westland Holiday Christmas Awards.
Good evening, everybody. So it's my honor tonight to congratulate and award our holiday decorating contest winners. And our first winner tonight is Matt Sutella. Could Matt and his family please come up? Congratulations. So this was the most over the top. So you guys did a really good job. Congratulations. And you can come stand next to me here. And I got a nice certificate for you. And your beautiful home was, I'm sure you all helped out decorate, right? Did you help out?
Yeah, we did.
You did a really good job. So this certificate is for you and your family, and the the displays on the screen here. So again, congratulations. And we'll take a picture. Let me give you that. You can open that up. Okay, another round of applause for the Sertellas. Congratulations. Yeah, good job. All right, and we have one more in the room tonight. And that's going to be Bill and Jess Harless. Is Bill and Jess here? Come up for the award? No, Bill and Jess. Okay, well, congratulations to Bill and Jess. They won Simple Yet Elegant, and their home is on the screen here, and they live on Regine Street. So congratulations, Bill and Jess. And then one more who's also not present tonight is Melinda Smith, and she won first place in the most original category, and she lives on Hively Street. So we're going to mail these out to the other winners, and then everybody else who participated, they're going to get a certificate of participation from our office as well. So again, congratulations to all the winners, and thank you for participating in the holiday decorating contest this year. We love that holiday spirit, so thank you, everybody.
Nice.
All right, well, congratulations to all the winners, and thank you to the family that did show up, the Stella family. We will now move on to questions or input on the agenda from the public. This section will allow members of the public at the beginning of the meeting to address the council regarding items that are on tonight's business agenda. Questions asked may be responded to during the agenda item following a motion and support from your city council. Is there anyone on my left? Mr. Warren.
Good evening, council, and good evening, mayor, police, and fire. This is under vouchers, because we all pay taxes to various entities to the city. And basically, this deals with the taxes that we pay to basically the water and sewer fund for maintenance of our fire hydrants, particularly in precinct 28. 2015, Christ Temple Church caught on fire, and the fire hydrant, which is less than 100 feet from the church, did not work. Last year, after I passed out the door hangers of Stand By Your Pot, there was a garage fire on Julius Boulevard, and the fire hydrant closest to that garage did not work. And just recently, we had a fire on McDonald Street, which, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Wilson, our the man that we love so dearly, and who would attend homeowners meetings and everything, and gave us guidance on how to do things within the community. He passed away in the fire, but I'm not blaming that on him. But the question was, the fire hydrant was less than 75 feet from his house, and it did not work. So my residents were raising the question to me is that how reliable, particularly in the precinct 28, are the fire hydrants? And what is the process, and I think that the fire chief can speak to that, is that when they run into a fire hydrant that does not work, do they refer that to the DPS? And does DPS, Department of Public, do they come out and service the fire hydrant and get back to them to let them know whether it is? Because all of you elected officials up there, you run on the aspect of public safety. And part of that is public safety. And the community that I come from is requesting you to look into that and look into that in all the quadrants of the city and see whether those hydrants are up to par, what the age is, and whether they're working. Because I know there's nothing worse than the fire department pulling up to a fire hydrant right in front of the house, and it doesn't work, and then they have to start all over. You're losing valuable seconds, and I'm pretty sure the insurance companies are looking at that too. If you don't have the ability to put out a fire in time, our rates go up, and everybody's rates go up. So asking you to bring the DPS to task to look into that. And the second thing is that the assessment department, making assessments on property that doesn't exist and taxing people.
Mr. Warren, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Well, I'm sorry too, but I still have other comments, citizens' comments, so I'll be back.
We'll catch you. Thank you. Is there anyone on my right wishing to speak on the agenda? Anyone on my left wishing to speak on the agenda? Anyone else in the audience? Seeing and hearing none, we will close public comment on the agenda and move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion? There is a motion from Councilman Hart, supported by Councilman Wishart. Are there any changes to the consent calendar? Any changes to the consent calendar? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, motion passes.
Council has approved the following consent calendar items: minutes of the regular meeting held January 6, 2025, as well as minutes for the closed study session held January 6, 2025. Approval of bid for portable toilets. Administration recommended the low bidder, Brendel's Septic Tank Services. Term shall be for a 3-year period with the option to renew for an additional 2-year period. Introduction of budget amendments through December 31, 2024 for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. Last item approved on the consent calendar today, adoption of ordinance 248A116, an ordinance to amend the Westland zoning ordinance to show CB1 low-intensity commercial business district, where I1 light industrial district is now shown in the area of the city described as 2207 Knowlson, west side of Knowlson, south of Ford Road. Moving to payment of vouchers.
Is there a motion? Is there support? There's a motion by Councilman Wishart, support by Councilman Hart. Are there any comments from the maker? Any comments from the supporter? Any additional comments from the council? Any dissent? Any dissent? Seeing and hearing none, motion passes.
New business. Item 1, public hearing for the proposed 2025 through 2029 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Notice of this public hearing was published January 1st, 2025 in the Marketplace newspaper.
Okay, at this time, this is a public hearing. This gives the opportunity to the public to come up with regards to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and provide your comments, feedback, and input with regards to the master plan. Is there anyone on my left? Yes, Eric. Oh, Ms. Wilson, one sec. Okay.
Gloria Wilson, Annapolis Park. I went through and I was looking into the master plan, the proposed master plan. And for the area of Stottlemyre Park, this is a dry area. I mean, there is nothing there other than a plaguescape that's about this big, a couple of a gazebo and a shelter, and we have a rock climbing walls about this high. And I have a mountain in my backyard bigger than that, so, you know, that's just no good. My issue is all the things that are being put into these other parks. When you get to your area where you count out your plan for your infrastructure improvement, everything that has to do with Stottlemyre Park is either to be determined, which is most of it, or there's one thing, install green infrastructure for $40,000. And that's not till 27, 29. I'm trying to understand why is whatever that's listed under 2025 to 2026 is to be determined, to be determined, and to be determined. There's nothing here for the area down there. But Firefighters Park is getting extra things, and I know they need it because they haven't been touched since they were put there in the first place. So I just need somebody to explain why is the money being placed in all the northern parks, and we have to wait. Again.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Is there anyone on my right wishing to speak? Derek?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Chris Galatas. I'm the chairperson of the Parks and Rec Advisory Team. I guess my first question before I start my comments is, we have McKenna representing here that was going to kick it off and share their part. So my comments come kind of after her, so I don't want to step out of turn, but
get McKenna in.
it would be better if Laura from McKenna probably starts it off before we go through our public comments, if that's fine with council. Is that okay?
That's the
or-
way it works.
Okay.
Is that how it works?
Yes, we can have McKenna come up then.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you. I appreciate it.
My apologies. Laura, my apologies. Come on up and present to the council.
You're totally fine. Thank you so much. Good evening, council members. Laura Haw with McKenna. I do have a short presentation before you tonight that really goes over the plan and the contents, just to make sure we're all on the same page. It's been a pleasure working with the City of Westland's Park and Recreation Advisory Committee over the last 6+ months. The project really kicked off in August of last year. So I welcome the opportunity to present the draft plan before you this evening. You have a copy of the presentation before you at your seats, but it's also on the screen to follow along. So this evening, in the presentation, we'd like to cover why communities do plan for recreation, why communities have this 5-year recreation master plan, go through the planning process that occurred over the last 6+ months, talk about some of the plan recommendations, and then dive into a couple specifics, specific park-related improvements, and then highlight next steps. And if there's any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to interrupt and stop me. All right, so why do communities plan for recreation? So the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, the MDNR, requires that communities have this 5-year plan, and certain elements within it are required by the state if the community wants to be eligible for state grant opportunities within the next 5 years. So this plan, by having the plan on file by February 1st with the state, ensures that the City of Westland is eligible for grants within the next 5 years. And the plan is meant to be both flexible and broad, so that when grant opportunities arise in the next 5 years, right, we can't always be like a crystal ball and plan for every single potential project, but this plan is meant to be flexible enough to allow the city to apply for those grants when projects align with what's available. This document is meant to be a roadmap for parks and recreation decisions over the next 5 years, as well as some longer-ranging projects. So you'll see as we go through the plan that there are some projects that are longer than just the next 5 years, but rather system-wide improvements. This plan also supports the community's vision based on the public engagement. So it's an important document to go back to reflect what the community has shared. I'd like to also note that this 5-year plan is separate from the city's community-wide master plan, the strategic plan. That process is simultaneously going on right now, but that is a different plan than this. And this 5-year recreation plan that's before you tonight is an update to the city's previous plan, which expired in 2024. So the park plan is meant to communicate values, to have that record of the public engagement that I mentioned, to ensure that the city is eligible for grants moving forward. But it's important to note that this plan is not the same as when you budget for your CIP. So this plan is not obligating funding that the city must provide for parks. It does not set programs in stone or create inflexible policies. I think it's also important to note that the city can amend this plan at any time moving forward, and you should amend it if there are major changes within the city, such as acquisition of new land, new parks, if there's a millage perhaps in the future, if additional funding becomes available. All those are examples of things that would warrant an amendment to the plan. So Westland is very fortunate to have over 19 parks with over 500 acres of public available land. That includes the Wayne County parks that traverse through the city. And there's other well-known amenities like the Jefferson Barn Center, the ice arena, et cetera. The plan also highlights recent investments that the city has made over the last 5 years, which are quite substantial. That's in Chapter 1. So that would include the Canine Corral Dog Park, the Mission to Mars Adventure, Nankin Square and the amphitheater, and all of the ARPA funding that was allocated to at least 9 parks throughout the city for reinvestment. Looking at the planning process, it was important for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to ensure that it was an inclusive process. So the Parks and Recreation Committee discussed this draft plan at 5 separate public meetings throughout 2024. There was also a community-wide survey. There was questions related to park and recreation amenities at the farmers market pop-up over the summer. There were 2 focus groups, stakeholder groups, that were held in September. And then the park and recreation plan was also part of the mayor's listening tour with some of the HOAs. From this engagement, what we heard from the community, these are some of the highlights, and it's further documented in the plan, is that connectivity is very important moving forward, both within the parks themselves, but making sure that there's connectivity to the parks and being able to access them. The accessibility enhancements to go beyond just ADA minimums. We had representatives from the Disability Advocacy Committee at the stakeholder meetings in September, and they shared their findings at that time, and those are also included in the plan. That was very helpful. We heard the need for increased safety at parks and expanding the diversity of amenities, especially greater activities for youth and for seniors. So allowing the full spectrum of age groups and abilities to participate and utilize Westland parks. There was also a 30-day public comment period through December and earlier this month. These are just a couple quotes that were provided. In total, we received 8 different comments during that time. Some of them were from the Wayne Westland Community School District or the National Kidney Foundation. Others were residents. Looking at the plan recommendations, this is something that the Park and Rec Committee really spent a lot of time on. They developed 9 guiding goals, which these are really important for the state when applying for grants because projects need to line up with these different goals. And they cover everything from sustainability and accessibility to mobility, security, and maintenance. Within the plan, I believe it's starting on page 60, there are specific objectives for each one of these 9 goals in order to realize them. I would like to draw your attention to the first goal here, which reads, increase and improve the economic viability and stability of the Parks and Recreation Department to provide and expand exceptional services. So we heard a lot through the public engagement period that folks want more amenities in parks and to make them more accessible. That takes maintenance, that takes funding, that takes staff and resources. So it was really important to the Park and Rec Committee to ensure that this first goal is the top goal because all of the other goals really aren't achievable without ensuring that the Park and Rec Department has the staff and resources. And that's something that is an ongoing discussion for the city moving forward. It's not something that this plan can solve or fully address, but it does start the conversation, and there's a lot of options to the city moving forward if the city is interested in increasing that department, including potential millage. From those goals and objectives, there were system-wide recommendations that were identified and included in the plan. And these are some of the longer-term projects that may go even beyond this 5-year period. There's 5 different categories: accessibility and mobility, diversity of amenities, environmental sustainability, inclusive spaces, and increased safety. So for instance, this is just one example, but for the accessibility and mobility, One of those system-wide recommendations is to look at expanding the bicycle infrastructure, so bicycle racks and maintenance stations. This is tied to the city's 2022 walk and roll plan and increasing mobility throughout the community. When we did the inventory of Parks and Rec, only 3 parks have bicycle racks. So that makes it increasingly difficult, right, to want to encourage folks to ride their bikes to parks if there's not a safe space for them to anchor them. So that's a system-wide approach that the city can explore in the next 5 years. Then there is a more detailed 5-year capital improvements plan. This is not your yearly budget, but it is intended to be a guide as you approach each annual cycle. So the pages in the master plan detail by park, each of the 19 parks, proposed improvements over the next 5 years, their time frame, and potential funding sources. And a lot of these projects were a result of what the Park and Recreation Committee, Advisory Committee heard from the public and had identified in their own due diligence throughout this process. While many of the potential funding sources do list G as the key for or GF for general fund, that is a placeholder at this time. As the city is able to go through these on an annual basis, you will be able to identify other funding sources, especially grants that are applicable to each project. But this is intended to be a high level. And again, it is not earmarking specific funding for any of these projects. I think it's also important to note that the CIP does not list projects that are estimated to be less than $5,000. Those are ongoing maintenance projects or smaller investments that are not captured in this table. And if we can just go through a couple of the highlights. The first with Colburn and Corrado. For Corrado, the expansion of the pickleball courts, this is a really well-used amenity that there was a lot of public feedback on. That is included, as well as to install a barrier between the parking lot and the soccer fields, similar to what was done at Stottlemyre recently, to help protect those fields. At Hicks Park, recommendations for increased safety and to expand activity at the park. There is a Wayne County millage funding that will likely need some additional funding within the next couple years, and that would be a phased project. For JC and Hubbard Parks, these were projects that have already been identified by the council with the allocated ARPA funding, so making sure that those are realized. An example of the Northgate Park on the next slide is during our inventory, we saw that this park is really not being well used. The equipment there is really antiquated. We heard from residents that there's always flooding in the area. So working with the Norway Citizens Council, this is a great opportunity in the next couple of years to try to redefine that park and see what the members of the Norway Citizens Council really would like to see and benefit from there. And then lastly, with Stottlemyre, there's a number of different projects that are planned. The first being working with the Southeast Westland Homeowners Association and determining a plan for the 3+ acres at that park that are just undeveloped right now. There is some flooding issue there, but that is a great opportunity for some collaboration with the Homeowners Association and to develop some new amenities. And the TBD just indicates that additional research is necessary to determine the scope of that work as you go through your annual budget cycle. So the next steps for this project is to continue with the public hearing tonight, take any additional public feedback. Consideration of the plan and adoption is a separate agenda item. That's really important. The state requires that that be an entirely different agenda, so this is just for discussion and consideration and additional public input. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for presenting this. I was kind of hoping we would have a study session so that we could dig in a little bit deeper and still have a public hearing, but I digress. One of the things that I noticed is it indicates that we don't have a nature center, and I see other items that are included that aren't solely owned by the city of Westland, but are included in those general lists. Using that as the premise, we do have a nature center. It's the Nakin Mills Interpretive Center. Not only is it a secondary historical feature in the community, and it digs deep into our native heritage and the land that was stolen away from the tribes of the Three Flames, but they also put on a lot of different nature discussions. They bring in animals, they have entomology displays and things like that. So if we were going to be making a comprehensive list, and especially one that's going to enhance, we would want to make sure that we were including at least that item, because it is within the confines. It's a Wayne County building, but it's within the city of Westland.
Okay.
Second to that, I really appreciate all the hard work that, the Parks and Rec Commission or Council Director Mulligan made, as well as all of McKenna's contributions. I think in some regards, some of the projects that aren't included, be it for dollar value or whatever reason, the council has allocated previously $1.25 million in ARPA in improving 9 of the 16 parks. So a lot of that isn't necessarily included, or at least isn't included with the same verbiage that was presented to us when the funds were asked for. And then there was a second round of funding that was asked for as well. So I think some of that needs to be included because I think there's going to be a lot more transformation happening with some of these parks that, are outdated. That's just my opinion right now. So, but thank you.
So, real quick, Laura, normally we'll have you stay up here for the second agenda item as well to take questions from the council. During the public hearing is usually just a one-way comment or you present, and then we have the public speak, and then council will have the opportunity on the adoption to speak on that as well. So before we resume and get back to the public, Director Mulligan, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Through the chair to council, I wanted to thank Councilman Rutkowski for her comments. I was going to try to chime in and say I think if the public does the rest of their public feedback and then we go to the adoption, that's all up to you guys. But I'm jotting your questions down and I'm ready to answer them when you want them answered.
Okay, so we're going to resume the public comment here for the public hearing, and then if you want to come back up here during the adoption portion to take questions from the council for yourself, and then through the chair to Director Mulligan, we'll do that as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, resuming the public hearing and getting public comment, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on the public hearing? Yes.
Good evening once again, Council. Chris Gladys, Chairperson for the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. I will also preface by saying I'm a Parks and Recreation Director in another community. So this process was near and dear to my heart, and I got to make sure I keep my eye on that time. I want to share with you guys the process that we went through, 5 meetings. In my experience, in my communities that I've worked for, we've never done 5 meetings for a master plan presentation. It's been pretty quick and easy. So the amount of time that our committee put forth through this is very commendable. Many of them are here tonight. And I must say all the members participated. They all put their input in, and they all approved and said to go ahead with why you guys are seeing it today as a draft agenda, or a draft document. I guess one of the big things that I wanted to point out to you guys, and you guys don't, I don't know if you guys have it up there, but is on the actual master plan, page number 24, looking at full-time staffing equivalents for many of the communities there that you guys would probably recommend and probably say are very good communities. Livonia, 24 full-time staff members. I don't believe Troy's number is correct at 5, but I'll digress. Rochester Hills, 43, Southfield, 21, National Median, 70, the lower quartile of that, 46. Annual operating expenditures, if you guys look at what you guys are giving the Parks and Rec Department at $1,066,000, it's nowhere near what it needs to be good for this community and the size of our community here in the city of Westland. So those numbers are eye-opening to me, not only as a resident, but also as a Parks and Recreation Director. The community I live in has 10,000 residents, and our budget is almost triple this. So just food for thought there. At the end of the day, our Parks and Rec Advisory Committee has really been working hard at this to get the work done. The goals that are here, as Laura pointed out from McKenna, goal number 1 is the main goal that needs to be addressed by council to be able to fund the projects that are later on, because without that funding, you guys are not going to get there. And I can tell you that from a professional standpoint. But the goals that are in here are very attainable. They would transform this community, and they're much needed. But again, can't get there without goal number 1 being completed. I know from our committee, we're committed. We want to help Kyle get this done and help improve the community. But we need you guys' support. And that starts today with adopting this plan and moving it forward. I know there was comments that there wasn't a study session. Again, I don't know how you guys do your business, but those meetings were open. And I think there was only one gentleman that's on council that showed up to those meetings, and that was the very first one. But after that, we never saw
Thank you.
anybody.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in the public hearing? Yes, Mr. Warren.
Okay. I attended one of those meetings where you talked about, where the parks talked about connectivity. There was no sidewalk or biking connectivity to Stoudemire Firefighters Park. I don't know how the commissioners, all the commissioners missed our suburban area, but they missed it. Okay, so basically it wasn't inclusive until the issue was forced to be inclusive. 2, looking at your funding sources, I don't see any city money in this. So if those you can't get the grants or the American Rescue Funds run out, and the Downtown Development Authority doesn't reach Stoudemire Park, so basically you have no city money invested in these parks. So I see the plan as dead on arrival because you don't have the funds to back it up. One of the things here is that in regards to Stoudemire Firefighters Park, those parks were not created by the city. Let's be very clear. Those parks were not created by the city. Stoudemire was created by the Annapolis Park and some of the Carver subdivision individuals. Firefighters Park was created by criticism from me for them moving the tot lot off of Richard Street and not building a park back in 1999, when most of you weren't here. So those parks have been generated by the citizens. Those 2 ones have been generated by the citizens, and in all those discussions, or the ambassadors that they have, they just missed the point with connectivity in regards to Stoudemire Firefighters. They just talk about it in generalities. But what I see here, in the reality, you don't have any money to do anything with the parks. You might be building a new park over there, but maintenance questions, because the Annapolis Park residents have been complaining about maintenance on that gazebo ever since it's been built, and nothing has been done. So when we start talking, and you're building a lot of parks, now the question is, do you have the maintenance money to maintain them? I don't think so. I don't think so. You're going to have a grand opening there. But the main thing that I want to say is that the program in this initiative until the Afro-Americans of that community stood up was not inclusive. So let's just be very clear, it was not inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. With regards to the public hearing, is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Is there a motion to close the public hearing? There's a motion by Councilwoman Rakowski, supported by Councilman Wishart. We need a roll call, right? No? So we're on the agenda. We just need a vote? Okay. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, public hearing is closed.
New business. Item 2, adoption of 2025 through 2029 Parks and Recreation 5-year master plan. Ooh.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Rakowski, supported by Councilman Hart. Is there any discussion from the maker?
I will defer my comments.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything that, before I guess we get the rest of the council, that Director Mulligan wants to add?
Yeah, through the chair, and thank you again, Laura, for going over all that stuff and all of the public comment. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things regarding Councilwoman Pro Tem's, Councilwoman Rakowski's comments regarding the ARPA money. The ARPA dollars that were allocated out of the 1.25, the ones that were already completed were listed in the accomplishments. The rest, Hubbard Park, Merriman Park, and then a few other ones are listed in the CIP funding, as well as the JC Park one that you guys just approved at the last meeting for the 150 for the lights, dugouts, and benches in the park. So I did want to just clear that up in case there's any confusion on that. We understand that there is a connectivity plan in this master plan with Mr. Warren's comments. One of those goals is truly how do we connect each park for people who don't operate motor vehicles? So that's bike lanes, that's, public transportation. How are we getting those? So that is addressed in the plan as well. And then I'll just send it back to the council if there's any additional questions. But I'm ready to answer any if there are.
Is there any additional questions from the council? Yes, Pro Tem.
Can I make comment?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the time.
All right,
Please.
perfect. So thank you for those that participated in the recreation plan. I know the time that it goes into putting a plan, the 5 meetings, obviously is outside the norm. So I'm going to just bring up and address some of the points. On page number 24, I wrote that note down. So on page number 24, as brought up with the budget. So the budget is, we're looking at definitely under the allocated amount of the annual operating expenditures. However, we do not have a rec center. So through the chair to Kyle, is this the difference, which would put us in line, is because staffing and annual expenses would be related to a recreation center or some type of community center?
Through the chair to Councilwoman Pro Tem, that obviously would affect the dollar figure. The exact numbers is obviously yet to be seen. The recreation center and pool aspect are in the CIP for a midterm goal, knowing that it's what the city wants, it's what the residents want, it's what the park department wants, it's what the council wants. It's just having that discussion to be able to attain that goal.
Okay, so just to clarify that point, it's, a full-time staffing
Department of 5 in Westland, it's quite different looking at Livonia because they do have a rec center. So Livonia would have probably 20 full-time people working at their rec center, maybe 5 at their city hall and their rec department. So it's probably the difference there from what I gather, but I wanted to make sure, I just wanted to make sure that was the case. I did also
at a point for 42, which is recreational programming. A lot of the programming, as seen here, is related to athletics. There is one, obviously, of Chamber of Commerce. But have we, have any partnerships or talks through the chair to Director Mulligan with any theater organizations or individuals that do crafting or so on and so forth? So just want to make sure things are accurately reflected here.
Through the chair, and I do appreciate those comments. We're always trying to work with any member in the community that's looking to add their services to the city, continuing to work with Inspired Theater on what we can do over there. Their biggest issue is staffing, obviously, as well, to be able to run these types of programs. But working with, the DNM Art Studio and offering up those art classes as well are definitely things we're trying to continue and expand on throughout this department and plan. Okay.
Yeah, you sound like you're underwater, but it sounds like you're trying to, your microphone. I'm like, I don't know what you said, but it sounds good. I don't know what's going on with your microphone. There you go.
Is that better? Is that better?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. All right. Do you need me to answer that question again?
Yeah, why don't, just for the record, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
I hear it now. So we'll, sorry. We're going to continue to work with like the Inspire Theater and the additional, community, people that want to, bring in their business and offer up, services to Westland and the residents, because the goal is to expand those offerings, and having the staff and the resources to do it is just kind of the struggle at this moment. But we're always trying to continue and see what we can do to offer up, whether it's the DNM Art Studio for the art classes that we've got. Tai Chi starts tomorrow. So just those little things here and there to add to the already existing opportunities.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for repeating that. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's great. And then there is a question that was brought up by Mr. Warren about Stoudemire Park, which has not been reflected, I feel, fairly in this plan. So with that being said, are you able to speak on that a little bit more, Director Mulligan, about perhaps some things that you guys have discussed, maybe didn't make it, or the connectivity of Stoudemire Park with the walking and maybe some additional plans? I want to make sure that we get that addressed.
Yeah, and through the chair, and again, I appreciate Mr. Warren's comments. For the last, I've been the Parks Director for over 5.5 years now. Knowing Stoudemire Park and the potential over there, there's a large grass field where the school used to be, and the potential there is endless. I did put a CIP request in the budget last cycle for roughly $200,000 for athletic fields. But the reason in the master plan it's TBD is because I really want to work with the council as well as the Southeast Homeowners Association to exactly figure out what is going to be there. Now, there's options for multiple things: a small dog park, athletic fields, additional play structures, pickleball courts, kind of endless opportunities. It's really just working with the community on what those could be and that potential, which is why the TBD is on there for that funding source. But I'm going to continue to ask for CIP money for Stoudemire Park for that large green area. That's roughly 3 acres with a lot of opportunity and potential.
Thank you for addressing that. I appreciate that. Hopefully, Mr. Warren, that gives a little bit of clarity, but I know that that's something that we definitely need to discuss. A lot of the funding sources, and, this is no surprise. Kyle and I talked about this. We met several times, although I wasn't able to make it to the meeting just because of the last notice was only 24 hours. Kyle and I met. I provided line item, marked up copies, and we've met and discussed. So my only concern, major concern, I guess overarching, is the potential funding sources. Majority of them are either general fund or grant. So I think when provided to council, Director Mulligan, I think we just have to be very clear what that looks like. it would be great to jump in a general fund, but of course, we know that we can't just go in a general fund for everything. So, I think for us, it's being very strategic, perhaps looking more grant funding than general fund. I'm a big proponent of recreation. I think it's obviously something that has been important. Our city needs many upgrades to our parks, but, we have to be strategic, balancing a large budget with other projects. So yeah, I think it's just looking at that. Just another concern with J.C. Park, I think we need to just make sure that when we do install a disc golf course, that we're conscious of the amount of trees that are taken down too. That's going to be important. As we increase our pavilions, is making sure that the amenities are proper at our parks. And then the last comment, as I will follow up, is in regards to the private partnerships. So I would just ask that we move that to an appendix, because we are missing, quite a other list of individuals that have private recreational options. So I would just ask that we move it to appendix. We can add as necessary. So if there is, a new business that pops up, I see that we don't have a lot of karate studios, we're missing some dance studios, there's a couple gyms, but I just want to make sure that we're fair. There's a couple people that did reach out to me that were concerned that they weren't added on here. So maybe we move it to the back in an appendix form, and we can add to it as necessary. Because it sounds like this is a working plan. Perfect, thank you.
Is there any additional comments from the council? I do have a few questions for you, Director Mulligan. Oh, did you have something? I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Thank you.
please.
I appreciate it. Okay, so I just will reiterate, obviously my comments were out of turn, but they still stand. I appreciate the amount of work and dedication that's been gone into this plan. I think each and every one of us would have something that we're going to be picayune about. I mean, it's a group project, right? So it's like, if you've ever worked on a group project, everybody has an opinion. But I think, it's a wonderful item that'll give us a really good roadmap to what we need to achieve. Some of them that we will be able to do, some of them we won't, and we know that. Like one of the things that sticks out, like I had a conversation with one of the commission members, is like the Wi-Fi. We've tried Wi-Fi, so we need to, I want Wi-Fi in all the parks too, but we're going to have to come up with a way to do that in a way that's not, endangering our infrastructure. I see Craig Brown looking at me like, oh, we can't go too cheap. But also allowing the public, let's come into the actual current century, right, for some of our amenities. Mr. Warren and Miss Wilson's comments about Stottlemyre Park, I like the idea that you want to work in conjunction with them. I can appreciate 5 meetings, but I think they probably have some pretty good ideas already of what they'd like to see there, so you might be able to turn that line item right into something that they'd actually like to see in their community. That's important to them and meaningful for them. I loved getting this piece of commentary. I'm sure you've taken it to heart and tried to include in many of the little things. There's little things like words, and there's big things like ideas. Love the idea of having permanent restrooms and incorporating, the arts and things like that. So I would like to see the nature or the interpretive center included, because I do think it's a rather unique thing we have, one of Ford's original farm industry buildings that still stands. But other than that, thank you for laying out, a plan for us to follow. Thank you to the commission members for laying out a plan that we can, try to get to. And thank you to all of the people that left commentary so that we have an idea of what, stakeholders in the city actually see as deficits or gems, because we all kind of walk through the city with our individual blinders on. So thank you, McKenna, and yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman, appreciate your comments. Councilman Hornbuckle, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in.
Go for it.
First of all, I want to tell the Park and Rec Department and the committee, great job. I know it was hard work, frustrating, but you did make it through it. I do have a couple of comments because you brought the Wi-Fi. The parks are for the kids to play, get some exercise. So, my 2 cents is no Wi-Fi. That would be my 2 cents, just to throw it in there. I'd rather for my kids to be out there running and playing instead of being on their phones like we're trying to get them away from. Well, you got cell there. It's more secure. But no, this is really good. I think I heard that this need to be approved before February 1st. Is that correct? And when you say this gives us a chance to get grant money, is that like a 10% better chance, or is this going to really give us the opportunity to really get real good grant money to do majority of the projects that are in our wish list?
So through the chair, to answer your question, Councilman, the DNR requires a 5-year recreation plan to be on file by February 1st. Other funding sources are going to ask for something similar to the master plan. So whether it's like the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation or any other grant opportunities, they're going to ask for, at bare minimum, what is your mission statement and what is your vision statement. This master plan is just something on top of that that can really paint a picture. And that's why, if you guys looked in the last master plan that was adopted 5 years ago, the CIP page was one full page. This is, I believe, 4 in here. So it's a large wish list. It's not locking into any specific projects. It's not locking in any funding. It's just that vision for if everybody got everything they wanted, what is on that list. So it would help for additional funding sources on top of the DNR. But to answer your question, the February 1st deadline is specifically for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in order to get those extra funding, which are the larger dollar grants.
And one last comment, I did go to one of the 5-year plan meeting, and from just being in the meeting, I just want to say we have some talented people on that board that was very passionate working on this, so they definitely deserve the credit for the hard work they did, and I appreciate you guys stepping up and doing what you do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to my comments, anybody else have anything they want to add from the council? I know you have something else. Councilman.
I think most of the things have been said. I'm also concerned about the funding for the park itself. If this report is accurate, it does definitely seem like we have a deficit there as far as the funding goes, and would definitely want to investigate increasing the funding further.
Anything else? Okay. So I do have a few comments. First off, thank you for your hard work. Thank you to Laura and the team at McKenna and our Parks and Rec Advisory Council for all the hard work and input they put building this master plan out. And thank you to all the members of the public who contributed towards the Parks and Recreation master plan with your ideas and your comments. Thank you to all my colleagues that had contributed too. I know I got to read through your laundry list of stuff that you shared to Kyle and all the notes and inputs that you put directly on the document that you had emailed over. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for all the comments on that. I guess one of the sources of heartburn that I have, and this goes back to even the last Parks and Recreation master plan that we adopted when myself and Councilman Murkowski first got on council and Councilman Hart was on the council, is kind of a vague, like, well, we're going to conduct a feasibility study with regards to, the development construction of a rec center. And I think we've had a lot of vague language over the years about we might, we could, is there a timeline for it? I don't know. And I think knowing that's the number one thing that residents are asking all of us for, asking you for, asking the administration for, I think I'm not asking for a specific date today, but as we move into the budget season and as we move further along this year, it would certainly be my appetite, and I'm sure that of many residents who this is their number one priority, of pinning down a date to have a conversation about a rec center, right? We had the Marshall conversation, obviously, and that program didn't work out, but getting something more concrete than just like a, maybe in here would, I think, make a lot of people happier. So that's one point I did have. And again, I'm not asking for an answer today, like, hey, on, March X, we're going to have a study session over looking to build a rec center, but getting something a little more concrete than just in the next 3 to 5 years, we might, or we could, have that discussion. Point number 2 with the disc golf at JC Park, is that something that you're directly planning for, this year, or what's the timeline for that as well?
So through the chair, the reason that was on there was a resident actually approached me a little over a year ago with the idea to install that disc golf course with the plan of eliminating as little trees as possible. There is a way to design it for 18 holes with 9 cement pads to kind of weave through. The conversation is always going to be, a lot of people walk in that park, so that's kind of the question as to how does that work with the walking path around in the trees and the disc golf course. I just thought it was a tremendous idea when I sat down with it, which is why I've always had it in the back of my mind, and if there's funding for it, we'd love to be able to operate it. So timeline kind of up in the air, but we'd love to be able to do it if the funding's there.
And so you do feel logistically you can work over at JC?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, great. The other one I had, and I know there wasn't like a ton to describe yet, because I don't think we fully know what we're going to do at Nankin Park, right? There's been lots of ideas kicked around at the annex at Nankin Square of what is Blues, Brews, and Barbecue going to move over there, is it not? Or what kinds of events, concerts in the park, movie nights in the park, things like that. And I know that this is an amendable document in the future. As we get our feet under us, once annex at Nankin, or Nankin Square, opens, I'm calling it by like 2 different names because we've got 2 different names for it. Once Nankin Square opens, would you anticipate wanting to make or have council come back and make amendments to this document to feature the Nankin Square Park more and more of the amenities and services that we're actually going to be offering there to get more specific?
Through the chair, once the Nankin Square and Nankin Theater Park is open, I anticipate being extremely busy over there. With a large dollar investment, we want to make it worthwhile to the community. I'm looking forward to working with the TIFA board on exactly what they would like to see over there. But again, it's the movie night, it's the community gatherings, it's the food truck rallies. All of those are opportunities out there, and I would be more than happy to sit down with council to discuss how that would look for the city. So, yes.
Okay, well, that is all I have. Thank you. And again, thank you for the work that you, Parks and Rec Advisory Commission, Laura, and the team at McKenna put into this. Pro Tem.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Well, I like the disc golf. I just want to make sure we preserve trees. I think it's actually becoming quite popular, across the country. So it's going to give a different feel to Westland. So with obviously preserving trees, but I think it's a great idea. Council President brought this up about a recreation center and swimming pool. And when I talk to people about recreation, the biggest thing that they say is, what are we going to do with a rec center? When are we going to have a swimming pool? So I would like, as mentioned, I think we talk about this a lot. There's not a lot of timeline, action, decisions made. I really would like to see emphasis on this. Another thing that I bring up too, and I don't really care if anyone gets mad because they've heard me talk about it a zillion times, but a sports dome or some type of, Westland has no turf in Westland that allows for recreation to take place. I know Mayor, he hears me talking about it, I talk about it all the time, but everyone has their thing, right? That's my thing. That's the hill I'm gonna die on. So, I would like to see how we can include training, recreation in an indoor way. So that's kind of what I'm gonna say is I don't see that plan or timeline or information on here. I was a little bit disappointed, but, we all can wish. So it did bring up about the Wi-Fi. I would be curious to see what Director Brown thinks about this too, especially with our new security. We just did a security training, and really exposing a Wi-Fi network opens yourself up in communities. See, I did retain from our training. Communities are more likely to be attacked. So if we open up a Wi-Fi network, someone taps into our network, they actually can get data from and information from residents. So unless the Wi-Fi is set up correctly, I get a little bit nervous about that. So I would say, other than that, those are things that were on my mind. I think that the committee came up with a really good list of diverse activities and events and topics. I would be curious with the rock and roll plan, if we're gonna do that, if are we gonna roll it out and start focusing on other parks, and what the plan is with that. But otherwise, I think I've talked a lot about this. I know the committee has put a lot of heart into this, and I just applaud them, but we definitely want to consider some of the points that we talked about here today.
I did have one other question, Director Mulligan. One of the things that we've already allocated money for was improving the baseball diamonds over at JC, right? So the lighting, the diamonds, the covered dugouts that I know, my colleague Pro Tem Sampy's really been advocating for. And I didn't see a whole lot of it in this plan. I know like WYAA and some of the organizations are mentioned, but if we're making those kinds of improvements, we have the opportunity to add potentially more, rec league activities like rec league softball. Obviously, that's going to require probably more on your end and your staff's end, because at that point you're signing up leagues and all that stuff. I didn't see a whole lot in the master plan though about like the future opportunities for generating revenue through leagues or bringing more leagues in for, I'm using baseball specifically and softball specifically because we're making the infrastructure improvements there at JC Park. What role, if you were gonna, and I'm not asking to have an amendment on this document tonight, but what role would you like to see as a part of a future master plan for like recreational leagues being added in? I know we don't have like the Garden City style facility where we've got 9 diamonds, but if we're making those improvements, I think that is an area that we can have, expansion in.
Yeah, through the chair, the one way to look at it is to go back to the goals and objectives. Goal number 1, just to increase the staffing and size of the Parks Department is going to be a key factor for that. I will let you know, without increasing the staffing right now, I do have plans for some spring activity that would utilize those fields. But obviously the staffing is really where it would be. So hope and goal would just to be increase the funding for the department so that we can have those opportunities, so that we can hire, whether that's working with the MSB or any city funding sources. But the staffing is what would be required in order to make those possible.
Great. And that's all I had. Does anybody else, any other comments from the council? Any other comments from the council? Any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries. Thank you.
New business, item 3. Approval of proposed land division for Griffith Veterinary Hospital, 363914 Ford Road, southeast corner of Ford and Carlson. This is Planning Department number 1532E. Planning Commission recommends approval contingent upon departmental requirements and recommendations, and if approved, directs the city attorney to draft the necessary land division resolution.
There's a motion by Councilman Hart, supported by Councilman Wishart. Director Ayub?
Thanks, Council President. The petitioner tonight, Mark Fidiak, who's up at the podium, is seeking approval to divide a single property into 3 parcels. The 3 parcels are outlined on your screen: blue, yellow, and red. Those all make up 1 parcel. As I just mentioned, parcel A, as proposed, will be the red outlined parcel. This is where the Griffith Veterinary Hospital currently exists. It's currently split zone C3 on the east side and C1 on the west side. This will remain as the Griffith Veterinary Hospital parcel. Parcel B to the south, immediate south, outlined in yellow, is currently vacant in zone R5, single family residential. It's going to be held for the development of a single family dwelling. Same for parcel C, as outlined in blue, and also zone R5, single family residential. This proposed split does not cause any zoning setback or requirement deficiencies. That includes the existing building where the veterinary hospital is located. The planning commission reviewed this case at its January planning commission meeting and is recommending approval. Have you answered any questions?
Thanks, Council President. Good luck. The only thing I've got, I'll support it. It seems pretty simple. Two residential lots in an extremely attractive part of the town right across from the park. You shouldn't be sitting on those too long before someone's going to be interested in building on them. So I'll definitely be in support. Thank you, Council President.
Okay. Any questions from the supporter?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Any additional comments from the council? Yes, Pro Tem.
Oh, thank you. So just to confirm, thank you for being here today. Thank you for sitting through the conversation, too. This is going to be a lot split, and is the plan to build 2 homes on the property?
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Walter Picak. I'm the general contractor and owner of that building, of the building. Our plan there is to build 2 residential homes to the south there.
Okay. And the timeline for that would be?
Hopefully this coming year, we should be able to do it. We're very busy at this time, and as soon as we can allocate some time to do it, we will. We have the plans ready. All we have to do is pursue it.
Okay. Well, I know it's going to come in front of us, but I'm absolutely fine with the lot split. I just wanted to confirm the plan was to build 2
Yes.
homes right next to
That
each
is the
other.
plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments from the council? Any additional comments? I'll just say that we appreciate you doing this. This could be 2 nice, really brand-new homes, as my colleague said, in a wonderful part of town. So we appreciate you coming forward with this and wish you best of luck.
Thank you very much. And I
Senator
just want to
Sutton?
take this opportunity to thank your planning director, Mr. Ayub, and his assistant, Nicole Jones, I remember her name, and your director of building, Dave Riley. They were very professional, they were very approachable, made our job a lot easier. And I want to thank Mary, my neighbor to the south, was very gracious during the construction period. So thank you very much. I appreciate working in Westland. Look forward to doing another project here soon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
And is there any dissent? Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none, motion passes. All right. We are on to public comment. Everyone wishing to speak before the council shall do so in a civil manner. Speakers shall refrain from abusive or profane remarks, vulgar language, disruptive outbursts, threats, racial slurs, or other conduct that interferes with the orderly conduct of the business meeting. Personal attacks on council members, the administration, city staff, or other speakers or members of the public will not be tolerated. The clock will start upon the first words of the speaker and will not stop while the speaker is recognized from the floor. The speaker can ask questions at this time, and the person questioned may respond during the speaker's allotment of time. However, the clock will not be stopped once it is started. The clock will continue to run until 3 minutes is up or the person is done speaking, whichever comes first. Is there anyone in the audience wishing for public comment? Yes, Mr. Stachow.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Chiefs of Fire and Police Department. I just have a couple of comments to make. I'm a strong proponent of the performing arts, and I hear buzzwords, rec center, sports domes. Like to see a little bit of money going towards the Inspire Theater. Right now, they're in the process of putting a play together, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and as I ordered my 10 tickets for my group today, I found out that this is running from March 21st to April 6th, and this run is already half sold out up until April. Our group always goes out, and a lot of people that attend the theater spend their money here in Westland, local restaurants and things, and like to see some improvements in that area. Anything we could do regarding that matter would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stachow. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on public comment? Mr. Warren.
Okay, as I started before my time ran out, the assessment department, how accurate is our property tax assessment department? When they would assess property, particularly in Fairfield Glades, for lighting that did not exist for a number of years. So that raises the question for all of us in our property assessments. If you can assess property that doesn't exist and have people pay their taxes on it, and then find out the property doesn't exist and give rebates to those 47 people of $318, just how accurate, and this is a question to the administration, how accurate is our assessment department? If they can do that and have people paying taxes for something, again, for something that doesn't exist, and that goes for all of us. Are your property taxes being properly assessed? Mine, or anybody in this audience? When that can happen to a people in a suburb, because it's obvious you can just walk down the street and see that they weren't there. So how are these assessments made? Just by a picture from a satellite or something? But I think that the council should be aware of that before you start approving these taxes, and find out, maybe from an independent, just how accurate it is, so that we will be taxed fairly and accurately in regards to our property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Yes.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to say I really appreciate the council members that I've seen posting the warming centers online. I try to follow everybody that I can, but it's been great to see the information that's been there and present. But while I'm seeing the information, I'm also questioning, are we training these people at these warming centers to be welcoming and inviting and share other additional resources? Because it's a kind of a concern. I know I saw, and I can't remember which one I saw, where there's a picture of the warming centers at the public library. And I could imagine if I'm living on the streets and I'm coming in to get the warmth that I need, how would it be to be out in the open in an area where people are staring at you and judging you for your situation? So I understand that it's not our job to police the community, but are we providing them with the needed resources that they're going to get while they're in these warming centers? Where can they get additional food? Where can they get clothing? What other resources are available in our community? Again, mostly want to say I really appreciate the ones that I've seen posting the warming centers. I know we're at -9 or whatever it was today. Upper Michigan was -36. Next couple of days, it's going to get worse. So again, I appreciate you. And if you guys have any thoughts or ideas, what we can do to help these community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, Ms. Wilson.
I need to talk about the fire and the fact that the fire hydrants weren't working. I need to talk about that. Because in the southeast corner, the majority of the residents down there are seniors who have either lost a husband or lost a wife, and they're in their homes by themselves. Granted, we as a community, we go by and we check on our neighbors. But when I get a call at 1:15 in the morning, that's a little disheartening to find out that a fire hydrant that was 75 feet away from the house, even though it was not your fault. It was not your fault that the fire happened. But there was no water in that hydrant. They had to run all the way down to the end, to the corner at the stop sign where the other fire hydrant was. The same thing that happened on Julius, my block. When the fire happened in the woman's garage, no fault of yours, because, I mean, who wants to cook in their garage? But nevertheless, there was no water in the closest hydrant. They had to come all the way down to my house, in front of my house, to use the hydrant. That's unacceptable. And I was asked, did the city come out and check those hydrants? I haven't seen our hydrants checked. So, my issue is, and my request is, please, go out there and check those hydrants. We are on the southeast corner. There's nobody down there with us. The firehouse was less than 500 feet away from Mr. Wilson's house. Somebody could have took a bucket of water down there and threw it on the house, anything. So that man did not die in that fire, but he did. And that is the most hurtful thing. We have a homeowners meeting coming up. That man was 103 years old. He never missed a meeting. He was always there. This is going to be the hardest meeting there is, to sit across the table and not see him sitting across from me. Take care of the city. Take care of your residents.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I want to also address the fire hydrant issue. We live at Hicks and Cherry Hill, which is on the total other side of the city. We had the same thing happen about 10 years ago where a wonderful woman named Dorothy, she lost her daughter not from the fire, but she had to leave her house and it caught on fire. And when the fire department got there, there was no water available. We're in a cul-de-sac. And that was the only hydrant in the cul-de-sac. And they had to go elsewhere to get the water to put the fire out. So I don't know, that we need to take a look at how that inspections are going. And is there a public record that we could see which hydrants have been checked? Some sort of accountability for that kind of thing? And I just wanted to add to what everyone else was adding to that, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Public comment? Anyone else in the audience? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we will close public comment and move on to comments to the administration. There were, Mayor, a couple of points brought up regarding the fire hydrant, so if the chief wanted to address some of those.
Let's give the fire chief an opportunity to speak if we could, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief.
Yeah, thank you. And, I'm as sorry for the loss on McDonald as anyone. I take all that stuff personal. I'm sure you guys know I talk to you guys quite a bit, and, I really pride myself on the service. So we did have one bad hydrant, but what I want to explain is that, we do carry water on every fire engine. So, we carry 500 gallons on there, and 500 gallons puts out quite a bit of fire. So I don't think that fire was at all delayed in attack because of that hydrant. There was a hydrant that's 400 miles away. We do have actually a very good hydrant system in the city comparatively to other communities, and I know DPS takes care of those hydrants as quick as we show that there's an issue. So there was an issue on that one. I'm not exactly sure what was wrong. They're still kind of investigating kind of what happened on that hydrant specifically, but I agree we need water when we show up, right? And again, I think DPS does a pretty good job of fixing those when we point out that there's something wrong. And a lot of that stuff, unfortunately, we don't know until we turn it on, right? That either something breaks with the stem, this time of year, there's a lot of like frozen hydrant stuff. If there was any leaks, we do check every single hydrant in the fall. We don't flow every single hydrant, and I'll discuss this with the city administration for this upcoming hydrant season, but we don't flow every single hydrant because we get a ton of complaints from the residents when we flow every single hydrant because all of their water turns orange for an extended period of time. So we quit testing every hydrant. We still spot check every hydrant. We check every single hydrant in the city for water every single fall before winter, and we make sure that they're in the best shape possible going into that winter, into the winter season. And some of the things we can't predict, and that's unfortunate. But really what I wanted to explain mostly is that we do carry water on every single vehicle in case there's a hydrant issue. I'm more than willing to, and I planned on talking to you guys a little bit further on this after the meeting, but I would just want to take the time to tell all the residents, those in attendance here and those watching later, that we do carry water on every single truck. And it's rare that a lack of water delays our our fire attack at any point in time. Thanks, that's all I got.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Again, first of all, my condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Wilson. I met Mr. Wilson years ago when he turned 100. I brought him a tribute from the state of Michigan to congratulate him, signed by Governor Whitmer. And I had a tradition of posting a picture of him and I on his front lawn after every election because he was one of my favorite supporters. And I know he'll be greatly missed by the community. So our hearts go out to everybody who's friends and family of Mr. Wilson. We're going to miss him a lot. And certainly a tragic thing that happened. So on another note, I'd like to just please caution everyone to be extremely careful. It's extremely cold outside. I just checked online. It's 1 degree Fahrenheit, and the feel temperature is -10, so it's extremely dangerous time to be outdoors. I ordered our warming centers open last week, once the temperature was dipping down below 20 degrees. We are reposting that on our city website, cityofwestland.com, and on social media. The 24-hour warming center is the police department on Ford Road, but also Full Gospel Temple on Palmer is an overnight warming center for those who need shelter as well. And then several of our fire stations during the day in our library are listed as well. If you know someone who's out in the cold in need of assistance, you can call the police non-emergency line, which is 734-722-9600. Emergency personnel will work to ensure they're taken to a safe place to stay warm. Also, if you see animals that are left outside, please either call City Hall or call that non-emergency line so that animals can be taken care of. I want to thank the Department of Public Service, they've been extremely busy cleaning up the neighborhoods that need it, and salting our streets and maintaining sidewalks. There's been quite a few water main breaks the last couple weeks as well, so these folks are out working in the inclement weather, and I just want to thank them for their hard work because I know it's not easy work to be out there in this kind of weather. I'd like to also thank Chief Dawley and all of our Westland Police Department personnel and officers that participated in last week's Mayor's Listening Tour stop. I thought it was a very informative talk. We dove deep into law enforcement, public safety, and your crime-fighting strategies here in the city. So I really appreciate all the officers that participated. Chief, thank you for hosting us. And I want to thank the council members that were in attendance as well. So I appreciate the council members for taking the time to be there. And of course, all the residents that participated. We haven't set a date for our February stop yet, but stay tuned and we'll announce that soon. I'd also like to thank our Parks and Recreation Director, Kyle Mulligan, and Director Pascal Easy, and the entire events committee here at City Hall. I thought our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day ceremony yesterday was really a beautiful ceremony. We had great speakers, great music. We had some great panelists, so it was really appreciated. And I just want to thank everybody that participated and attended in that ceremony. I'd like to congratulate Ruby Richards on your Martin Luther King Leadership Award that was so well deserved. Thank you for everything you do in service to our community, and I congratulate you for that. I'd like to thank our Parks and Recreation Master Plan Steering Committee for all their hard work. We appreciate your input. Thank you to Laura from McKenna. I know she worked closely with our city staff here and the steering committee to get that ready for City Council. Thank you to the City Council for approving it and to the members that put forward input. It's very appreciated. And just a couple comments, because I was listening to a lot of the feedback tonight. And I would just clarify that a master plan like this is a living document. It's something that can be changed and amended. I know that was mentioned tonight. And certainly our administration and city council, it's a priority, I think, for all of us to look for opportunities to improve recreation with the limited budget that we have. Years ago, before I was here, I know that budget was reduced due to a crunch in the economy and less resources. So we're looking for ways to improve our parks and recreation citywide. And then also, a rec center is something that we hear discussed quite a bit. Ever since the Bailey Center closed about 10 years ago, it's been kind of a hole in our city services. We have been doing some research behind the scenes. We've had conversations with city council, and we're looking for options. We're looking for funding mechanisms, but it's more of a long-term plan. It's not something that you'll see come to life overnight, but it is a priority, something that we think should be worked on, and something we're looking forward to collaborating with City Council on in the future. And then lastly, I would like to wish a very special lady a happy birthday, Mrs. Wilson. Happy birthday. Yesterday was your 95th birthday, so thank you for being here tonight, and happy birthday. Thank you, City Council. That's it from me.
Okay, any comments from the city attorney's office? Nothing this evening. Okay, all right, we'll begin council comments tonight with Councilman Wishart.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to start tonight with thanking everyone for their wonderful Christmas decorations. Me and my wife enjoy your guys' hard work driving around, and feel sorry for your guys' electric bill, but it's well worth it, I think. I also like to highlight a new program that I'm thrilled to talk about. It's to help our veterans transition into civilian life and a career in law enforcement. This program, from what I understand, allows our veterans to go straight from the military after they pass the provided background checks to go into the police academy to work for our police department without the college requirement. This really allows them to continue committing to our communities. This is phenomenal, and if this was around when I first got in the military, there's not a doubt in my mind I could have convinced my wife at that time to join it. Lastly, thank you, Chief, for going over the fire hydrants. I really appreciate it. I would still like to talk further about what we can do to improve. Standards are there, but we can always exceed standards. Thank you for all attending and watching tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Wishart. We will now hear from Councilman Hurt.
Thank you, Council President. Nothing from me today. Thank you.
Okay, short and sweet. Councilman Hornbuckle, matter up.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for reminding me about the Christmas lights. I just want to throw my favorite one in there, if you don't mind. But they got minions like everywhere, and I think I stopped about 4 times to take pictures with my kids, so I definitely want to throw them in the hat, because they did a really great job as well. I want to give a thanks to Mr. Brown for your cybersecurity training. That was not only putting on a good training, but pushing people to make sure everyone attended and receive that, because this is very important in this time and age, that everyone get educated on how to protect themselves, but also protect their work environment as well. I want to thank the Park and Rec Director and the council for putting this together. I know it's hard work, it's frustrating, it's a lot of hard work and great ideas, and some of your ideas didn't make it, but it was great work. So, I can't say it enough that, I appreciate everything you guys did, and you guys deserve a big pat on the back for all the work you guys did. What else I have here? Fire hydrants, man, that one hurts there, man. I was just talking to a colleague 2 weeks ago because of the LA fire, and it was like, man, we can't have something like this happen in Westland, and that comment was, oh, that won't happen in Westland, and to hear this today, that hurts, man. So I definitely would like to know how can we prevent it. I know it's a tough subject, but I just talked about it when I seen the LA thing, and they're having issues with their fire hydrants. Don't want to beat up the dead horse, but this hurts. This really does hurt, and we need to really make sure we do a better job. Also, what else do we have here? Fire plan, we did that. And I want to thank everyone that's in the audience now for braving this weather. I know this morning I was freezing cold, feet cold. It's like, man, we got council, I got to get warmed up, go out there, because, you know, you guys need me to be here to represent you and to serve you. So thank you all for coming out here and also braving the weather and showing support and your comments tonight. And I think that's all I have tonight. Thank you, and see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. We will now hear from Councilwoman Rakowski.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. I was saddened to hear about Mr. Wilson. I had the opportunity to meet him at one of the Southeastern Westland Homeowners Association meetings. I went and asked questions to be taught about what Juneteenth meant and what it really was. And he was one of the members in attendance that day. And I was very touched to be able to speak with someone who's lived so long and experienced so much of life and really give a heartfelt explanation as to what Juneteenth meant. And that'll be one of the highlights of having served on council, is having the opportunity to meet and cross paths with people that, I don't see every day. So he will be greatly missed by the community. 103 years old. I can't even imagine just the amount of life in the years, that dash. But with that being said, one of the things that we used to get a lot as council is, information about when we've lost somebody in the community, especially some of our matriarch and patriarch members, be it by, life's untimely taking of this person or tragic circumstances. And I unfortunately heard about Mr. Wilson through the grapevine. I didn't get information directly. I also didn't get information directly about another incident that involved one of our police officers. And it makes me feel, and I don't know if it makes the rest of my colleagues feel like this, but it makes me feel like I'm, one, out of the loop. Two, I can't serve the people in the community that are affected by these tragedies because I learn about them, beyond the time that I can do anything or give words or comfort. So that's disappointing, and I would hope that we can continue on with a little bit more transparency. And when these incidents happen, no, they're not wonderful, emails to read. Nobody wants to read those emails. But it's important for us as community members to be able to take care of one another, and we can't do that if we don't have the information. So we left last week, and I apologize because I mourn a little bit differently than most of my colleagues, but I try to sit with things. But we lost one of our greatest leaders in our country. Now, people might not think he was the greatest president, but I think he was one of the greatest men to be president, and that's Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter. What another extraordinary life. And I always, when I lose somebody, I try to encapsulate their lives. And so he has a quote that I find near and dear, and I would like to share it. It says, "I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I am, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to make a difference." And I think he was a man that did that. And I think it's quite the thing to live up to, and I think it's something that at least I personally want to continue to aspire to do. So in the meantime, check on your neighbors. It's cold outside. Too many people are opening stoves or rerouting their dryers to stay warm in their house. It's dangerous. Don't do that. You're going to die. If your neighbor's furnace is out, let them in your home. Take care of your neighbor. Take care of the people outside. If there's a dog outside and we can't get animal control there, well, I don't know, go knock on your neighbor's door and tell them bring Fido in, and if they won't, bring Fido in. I'm not telling you to steal your neighbor's dog. I'm just telling you to do the right thing. Don't steal your neighbor's dog, just do the right thing, or build him a nice dog house with a nice heater. But with that being said, I wish you all peace. We'll see you in a few weeks. And in the meantime, stay warm and safe.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We will now hear from Pro Tem Melissa Sampe.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for bringing up Mr. Roy Wilson, who truly was, especially, wow. I can't believe that we didn't hear about it. And it got brought up by my colleague, but for someone who was such an iconic figure, not only in southeast area of Westland, but also Westland. It got brought up that it was, I think, several days ago that we heard from, actually through the grapevine. So I think from a communication perspective, I did speak with Chief Dolly about the incident that happened with one of our officers. Chief Stamper will talk about it, but I think we can get better because we can't service our residents, provide support, condolences, reach out to you if we don't know. So, I think anytime that is a situation, we lose a resident, especially one of such significance, I think we probably need to know about it in addition to situations that happen. So I think myself and Council President will talk to administration. There's just been some information that's gone missing that we haven't heard, but my deepest condolences to Mr. Wilson's family. I think that the DPS, as mentioned, can maybe come up with an idea of testing and communication. So just sending my thoughts and prayers to such an icon. I did want to send congratulations to the holiday decorating winners who were here this evening. Wanted to thank everyone involved in the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. ceremony, which was absolutely beautiful. I walked away with what I would say is my quote for the years: "Don't change your dream, change your strategy," which I thought was a powerful, powerful message. Miss Ruby Richards, who received, I don't know if it was just the MLK honoree or just, I put down notes as just a true champion of inclusion. So it was great to see you recognize Miss Richards for everything you do for our community. I talked to her afterwards and I said, "Oh my goodness, your bio, I had no idea." So thank you. Thank you for what you do for the community. We appreciate you. So I also wanted to just plug the Ladles of Hope event. This is the Relay for Life done on January 28th. So it's more of a soup and chili theme. That's going to be taking place here from 6 to 7:30 at Westland City Hall. We do have a study session that we're going to be adjusting that day. So hopefully we can get out and support that. It has been mentioned numerous times about the cold. I know that's something that I had brought up and I've always had an issue with is Westland doesn't offer a 24/7 warming center. So I think that, for us, if we could do cots or something, but I know the Lighthouse Mission is working in partnership with Full Gospel Temple Church on Palmer. So what I ended up doing is I reached out to Jennifer Guzmana. She's our social worker at the police department. And I had a long conversation with her and I asked her, "Jennifer, what is really needed?" And she said, "Well, you want me to be honest?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Donations." She said they are struggling to get paper plates. They're struggling to get cups, bowls, silverware. She said they feed the people 2 times a day. And the Lighthouse is a local provider of shelter and meals. Another thing too is they are very low on volunteers. So most people think like, oh, it's Temple that does it, Full Temple Gospel. They do not. So they provide the space, but this is a volunteer-run organization that operates. So what I asked her is, I said, "Jennifer, what can I do to help? How can I step in?" And she said, "I don't know, help with volunteers, help with donations." So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together an Amazon wish list. We're going to start putting that from now until March to help, fuel their donations. A lot of times it's a lot of talk, right? But we got to step up. So anyone that's interested in helping, I'll get that out. I'll work with the administration, see if we can push this out. The donations will go right to the shelter and the homeless shelter, because in true essence, we do not have one in the city of Westland. So anyone that's interested, it's gonna include paper products. She also is gonna get me a list of things such as hand warmers, boots, gloves, scarves. As a community, it really takes all of us. And especially with the polar vortex that's coming in, it's gonna be cold. We're gonna have a few rough months. So anyone that's interested, feel free. I'll stay after, but I'm gonna get that link up. I'm gonna really continue to support them because that's what we need to do for our community. So I wanted to share that because there are some vital months that are coming up, and I think that we all can step up. Now, our library does have the warming center until 9 p.m. I know that they offer various seating areas, but, in all frank conversations with Jennifer said, the individuals, Melissa, that are struggling from homelessness, they're not walking to the library, and they're not going to walk back. Like, that's not what they're doing. They're not walking all the way to the police department or whatnot. They're in that area. They're in that area. And I said, gosh. So these things, as partners, and the things that we need to kind of know is that we have opportunities here in the city, but it's not where they would go. Someone that's struggling homelessness is not going to walk to the police department. And frankly, the police will welcome you, but it's a tight lobby. So I think, help your neighbors, help your friends, share this resource. I'm willing to step up. Hopefully, anyone that's interested will want to join me. I also wanted to plug the family prom night. I know that this is something that the Norwayne Citizen Council does. Just getting ahead of it, guys, for those that are in the audience. So they're going to be doing it on February 14th from 6 to 7:30, and that's at Jefferson Barnes Community Vitality Center. They have the DJ, the dancing, the arts, the crafts, the family photos, snacks, and drinks, and they do this graciously, volunteer organization. So great event to bring your family out to. A few things that were addressed tonight. Let's see. I know Mr. Stachel talked about the performing arts, so we're waiting to hear back from Mr. Fisher. He's going to be getting us some needs. So we have not gotten that yet, but I know that he's met with the mayor, and he's supposed to be meeting myself and council president to kind of talk about what that looks like. So we have not actually got dollar amounts of what's needed. So we hope to review that plan and go from there. So our next meeting's on the 3rd, Monday, February 3rd at 7. Until then, be safe and kind with each other, and if anyone needs anything, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pro Tem. First and foremost, I want to start by expressing my condolences to the family of Mr. Wilson. To lose someone of such great importance in our community who lived 103 strong years in a tragedy like this is really unbearable and terribly sad. And, I know that it's, no one's fault directly, but nonetheless, it is a horrific situation. And my heart goes out to his family and the people in his, community and across Westland who got to know him, became friends with him, who worked and advocated with him to make Westland a better place. And when things like that happen, or when incidents happen, where there are auto accidents or things that involve, public safety directly, the more that we can know as a council, I think the better that's going to be for all of us in the decisions that we want to make on your behalf, as residents. I know in the past there have been group text messages that have gone out where we're all getting, pretty instantaneous updates. So if those can continue and be expanded, that would be greatly appreciated, I think, by everybody on this dais. The point was brought up regarding the cold and homelessness. I just want to remind people that homelessness is a conscious choice that the wealthiest nation on earth has continued to make. As we give tax cuts to multimillionaires and billionaires, and likely with a new administration continue on with that policy as opposed to investing in affordable housing. That is a conscious public policy. I know from 2017 through 2020, there were many conscious choices made regarding housing, including cuts for aid to families who needed affordable housing. There were conscientious decisions made to put people in charge of HUD who thought that Joseph built the Egyptian pyramids to store grain, and people who were totally unqualified in the positions that they were given. So I'm not here to have a soliloquy or a rant about the federal government, but I just want to remind people that homelessness and the scourge that it is a conscious choice that we make here in the wealthiest nation on earth when we divert money and resources from families and those in need of housing to cutting taxes for the wealthy and the wealthy elite and the billionaire class. So I'll get off my soapbox on that one. There are some resources, as my colleague mentioned, with regards to Lighthouse. There are also a couple of other resources that can help with homelessness here year-round in Westland. There is the Samaritas Family Center located on Michigan Avenue. Samaritas can be reached directly at 734-721-0590. There's also Wayne Metro Action Agency does work around homelessness prevention. They have a branch of Wayne Metro here in Westland at the Jefferson Barnes Community Vitality Center. Wayne Metro can be reached directly at 734-284-6999. And also the Salvation Army located up on Vinoy Road, South Vinoy Road there. They have resources for people facing homelessness and families facing homelessness. And you can reach the Wayne Westland Salvation Army at 734-722-3600. I want to thank, again, everybody who was involved in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, our director, Kyle Mulligan, who worked really hard, the mayor and administration, the Parks Advisory Commission and the Parks and Rec Steering Commission, and all of my colleagues who contributed towards developing that master plan for the Parks and Recreation, and all the community and residents who gave input on that. So thank you for everyone who worked really hard and all the input and feedback that you provided there as well. Thank you to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director, C. Pascal Ize, his Assistant Nicole Jones, and our Parks and Rec Director, Kyle Mulligan, for planning a really great Dr. Martin Luther King Day ceremony. Thank you to the mayor for moderating a great panel and discussion on that as well. And thank you to all of my colleagues who showed up and participated in that event. And to everybody in the community who was a part of the Dr. Martin Luther King Day ceremony, thank you for showing up to that. Celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. King isn't just a one-day event, though. I will remind folks that it is something that we cannot lose sight of for the other 364 days of the year. And it is a fight about equity and equality and racial justice and voting rights and all the things that we know that Dr. King was famous for advocating and fighting for, and ultimately lost his life over. But let's not forget the important work that he did just before he died. And that was a fight against poverty, and that was a fight for workers' rights. And, without Dr. King's advocacy, and without the advocacy of people like Medgar Evers and John Lewis and Shirley Chisholm, the work that was done to fight and combat poverty in this country, the work that was done through President Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, would not have been accomplished without Dr. King. He spoke often of the scourge of poverty and how racial justice walked hand in hand with economic justice and the fight to ensure that everybody had enough to not only subsist, but to really thrive in life economically. So when we honor Dr. King's legacy, let's make sure that we're doing that 365 days of the year, even though I think, myself included, we lose sight of that fight for justice, and we lose sight of all that Dr. King fought for, not just the important fights for civil rights and voting rights to pass the 63 and 64 Civil and Voting Rights Acts, but also the fight for economic justice and the anti-poverty work that Dr. King did as well. And then with that, if anybody needs anything, I can be reached directly, as always, on my council page, at Councilman Mike McDermott, or directly on my cell phone at 734-890-2146 via call or text. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?